Can we take a little peek at the Candace Owens Jubilee video? Just a
Women,
peek.
they don't want to stay at home when you pull them. They just want flexible working hours and flexible working conditions like you have. And I think we should all advocate for that. It's not one or the other. But when you sit here and you go, you'll be more fulfilled doing this and spend all your time doing that, we would love for you to leave the public eye and go focus on what makes you fulfilled.
Okay. Hi, my name is Candace Owens. I am a podcaster, a mother, a wife, and also the author of the upcoming book, Make Him a Sandwich. And today I am surrounded by 20 feminists. My first claim is that the sexual revolution has devalued women and made them infinitely less happy.
We're starting off strong. The marbles are gone.
Hi.
Hello. Hi.
Hi, I'm Samaya.
Samaya, nice to meet you. I'm Candace.
Nice to meet you too. So my question for you is, statistics show that 60% of women who are murdered by their intimate partners, murdered by someone that they are in close relations with. That's according to the UN from 2023.
Yeah.
So how is it that, women are so valued, quote unquote, in the home, and yet that's the place where they're at the most danger?
Okay, so I'm not sure what that has to do with the sexual revolution.
Right, the sexual revolution.
The first claim.
The sexual revolution gave.
I'm happy to answer it. I'm just saying that, if you broaden that statistic, you are more likely in general just to be murdered by somebody you know. So, of course.
But men are much less likely to be murdered by, their
That's not
partners.
true.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I'm sure, because men are less likely to be murdered by women. Full stop. Exactly. So that statistic makes sense to me. I'm still not sure how this correlates to whether or not the sexual revolution
increased women's ability to leave the house, women's ability to control their own reproductive capabilities, women's ability to, control their own capacity within the workforce in regards to their own sexual capacity. So it is the very fact that the sexual revolution happened that made our access to the workplace much more, or just the public sphere in general, much more easy. So without the sexual revolution, women would be much more confined to the place where they're at the most danger. Isn't that true?
So you think that, just so I'm trying to understand your argument here, you think that if we didn't have the sexual revolution, less women or more women would be murdered? Are you saying that women are
more women would be murdered, for sure.
Okay, I disagree with that. I still don't think it has anything to do with the claim that women are infinitely less happy.
Famously, when women had less rights, they were beat less, and there was less domestic violence. Famously, actually, everybody knows that. Everybody knows that now that women have the ability to work, the ability to own a credit card, the ability to own property, they are more likely to be physically abused than they were before. That's just, everybody knows that.
Because of the sexual revolution, which has devalued
I think
women.
you'd probably be less happy if you're being murdered.
Oh.
Anyone disagree?
Okay, yeah, I don't, okay.
Wait, she kind of ate?
There is definitely a correlation between personal relationships and domestic violence. And just to be clear, if we're talking about just a monogamous relationships, the most violent relationships that are on the books are between lesbian partners. Yes, when people are intimate,
that's not a true
that is actually true.
No, the statistic you're talking about is people who have faced domestic violence. Lesbians, yes, are more likely to have faced domestic violence, but that's because they typically came from relationships with men in which they were mistreated.
Lesbian relationships are the most violent relationships that we have on the books.
But we can
Wait, what's the image on the screen? Survey from 2013 shows 61% of bisexual men and 44% of lesbian women reported intimate partner violence, compared to 35% of straight women, according to Stand for Families Free of Violence. But first of all, besides the fact that this data is always incorrect, any data with queer people in it should make you raise an eyebrow. A good example is the 41% rate that transphobes love to use towards trans people. And then once you actually take a look at trans kids with one supportive adult in their life, the rate of mental illness or depression or suicidal ideation drops way down. And it's it's almost like being trans isn't the thing that's causing people to kill themselves. It's, all of the harassment because they're trans. And it's the same again with all these things. Lesbian bed death is another good one where people have loved parroting that and being like, once they get the U-Haul, no more sex. No more sex for the lesbians. And it's like, wait, go and look at the actual stats. Go and look at the actual details. And that poll is like really, really, really old, by the way. But look at more recent polling as well. And it finds that there are less sexual encounters in lesbian relationships, but the duration of the sexual encounter is like 2 hours long. And it's like, yeah, no shit. If every time you're gonna have sex, you're fucking having 2 hour fucking orgasms and you're just busting and sucking and fucking for the whole 2 hours. Yeah, I can't do that every day. I'm sorry. No, we're not going to be having sex every day if it's a whole venture, a whole ordeal. Okay, that's like a once a week thing, dude. Max. Whereas if you're having like nothing but like 5 pump chump over here, yeah, you're going to be able to have more sex more often. That's just a distribution with time here, okay? That's just the difference between meal prepping and cooking every day. Like, come on, this is just basics here. We're talking about basics here. All right? No shame for either party, by the way. No shame for either party. I'm just saying, logistically, you can't be having 2-hour sexual ventures every day. You can be having like some quickies every day. That's feasible. That's plausible. All right? So anytime you see any stats about queer people, like you should immediately be a little suspicious. A little. Because a lot of the polling is, if not done by right-wing organizations, if not funded by like the Heritage Foundation, it's also just like bad research and questionable methods. Like the old stat about lesbian bed death, another big one was like what they included as sexual intercourse. And there are a lot of things that lesbians do that are not considered oral sex or any other form of sex, but resulted in more orgasms than a straight sexual interaction would have resulted in. So like they're also not defining them very well. And it's also not defining general happiness with the sex life, right? If you're having sex every day, but the sex is mediocre and you're not really enjoying it and it's kind of just like a chore for you, which a lot of straight women in shitty relationships describe, versus the lesbian women who are having way less sex, but when they are having sex, they love it and they're having a great time and they feel fulfilled and they're very happy with their experience. Isn't one of those better than the other one? Shouldn't we just commend the people that are having sex and are enjoying it and being happy than the people who are having more sex that's worse? So like there's a lot of factors that you should consider anytime you see any of these sources, any of these any of the documentation here on queer people. But yeah, okay.
Lesbians, yes, are more likely to have faced domestic violence, but that's because they typically came from relationships with men in which they were mistreated.
Lesbian relationships are the most violent relationships that we have on the books.
But we can move
Statistically,
on.
they can fact check that claim. The point being is that it's not exactly a stunning statistic to say that when people are in relationships.
I want to respond to a chat message. Crazy that people still give Jubilee oxygen. Sucks that you're watching this. I mean, the way I see it is people are going to watch it. People are going to watch Jubilee videos on their own time, and they want to watch Jubilee videos, and people want the slop. The least I can do is watch it and at least provide some like stats on this stuff or provide some details on like, for example, propaganda around queer research, right? And that it could be some beneficial process.
Fact check that claim. The point being is that it's not exactly a stunning statistic to say that when people are in relationships, period, whether those relationships are homosexual, whether they're
But
married,
you're
whether
saying that the sexual revolution.
Let me finish. I've let you try to explain how this is correlated to happiness, and I don't think it does. I actually think you're having a different debate right now. But yes, absolutely, it makes perfect.
Which, like, I get the point that Candace Owens is making, and I agree that, like, the conversation around domestic violence is a little bit far away from the topic at hand. But if your entire argument is just, well, we should undo the sexual revolution because women are unhappy now, it's like, wait, but that also included a lot of different things that brought a lot of positives. Like, for example, people feeling less afraid of being slut shamed, right? People feeling less afraid of coming out about abuse, um, sexual abuse from their partners or loved ones or whatever, right? Like that came with the sexual revolution. You can't undo these things. You can't remove these things from each other. They come together. That as people become more comfortable with sex and having sex and talking about sex, people also become more comfortable with talking about negative sexual experiences, with talking about sexual abuse, right? So like,
perfect sense that you are more likely in general when you are in a relationship because people are driven by anger by people that they know, whether or not we're talking about boyfriend and girlfriend, girlfriend and girlfriend, a husband and a wife, a husband and a husband, or a wife and a wife. Yes, of course, the instances of domestic violence are going to take place when you're inside of a home. But the sexual revolution, encouraging women to give up their goods for free, which is what I'm speaking about, and encouraging men not to.
Okay, I'm going to take, in my opinion, the coldest take on the planet. All right. In other people's opinion, a very hot take, which is, I think the entirety of the don't have sex on the first date or whatever is absurd. Like the entirety of like, oh, well, you shouldn't give up your goods for free. If you are reducing your relationship with somebody else to whether or not you put out, you've already started from one of the most flawed positions you can start from. And you are, in fact, devaluing women to the sexual pleasure that they can give to men, fundamentally. Transactional framing as well. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think that, like, you should be... I'm trying to think of ways to phrase my comments. Okay. Personally, I think women should stop having sex with men who don't give oral. Sorry to be vulgar, okay? I apologize, excuse my French, but that, I think, needs to stop immediately, okay? Like immediately. Immediately it needs to stop. I'm sorry. Immediately. Like, I think you're allowed to feel that question out on a first date. I think you're allowed to, okay? I think you're allowed to. There are men who don't do that. Yeah, cowards. More for me. You want DJ Khaled to fucking die? Shut the fuck up. I know Nicki Minaj is like totally fried, but her one song, what is it called? Her line with DJ Khaled is like, it's actually the most fire line on the planet that she's ever spit. Okay. Let me see if I can. What was it called? What's the song called? DJ Khaled has the right to defend himself. What is it? I was gonna say I think it was Barbie things, but I couldn't remember. I was like, that can't be it. Let me see. It's just a listen again. I know Nicki Minaj.
I'm not bad.
The Nicki Minaj boat has sailed and it's over. And it's always been over. But is it not this one? No, I think it's not. I don't think it's this one. It's a different one. Barbie Dreams. That's the one.
Had to cancel DJ Khaled, boy, we ain't speaking. Ain't no fat nigga telling me what he ain't eating.
Sorry, for anyone who didn't know, DJ Khaled said he doesn't eat pussy. Sorry. Okay, moving on. I think women should focus more on sexual encounters with people that don't suck. And I think a big reason why a lot of women are more sexually conservative is because they experience what the experience of sexual market, and they see a lack of care about like female orgasms and female pleasure, and it puts them off and it makes them more sexually repressed. And so I think the correct solution is to make women care about their orgasms and care about their sexual pleasure, and deny sex to people who suck. Like you should have sex with people who want to make sure that you're having fun as much as they're having fun. But the idea that like you don't want to what's the term? Why would you buy the cow when you can just get the milk for free? Like, ew. Why would you ever want to be with a man who thinks that way about women? Like this, in this hypothetical universe where you don't put out because it devalues you as a woman to have sex with a guy before you're married to him or dating him or whatever. That hypothetical man that exists, that sees women only for sexual gratification and has a Madonna whore complex and thinks that once you have sex with them, you're not worth being with.
Check out the stats on the orgasm gap between sexes and types of relationships. The numbers are horrifying.
Numbers are not good. Not good, people. This is easily 7 out of 10 men, though. Then we should shame them. And we should tell them their opinions are stupid. It's a dumb opinion to have. And it's not a good, like, please the cow, enjoy the milk. It's a little interesting, a little Freudian. But anyways, why would you ever want to be with the type of person who wouldn't have respected you if you had sex with them sooner? Why would you want to be with such a dumbass? Like, fundamentally, it doesn't make sense to me how people want to keep those people in their life. It's the same thing as, like, dudes that hyper-focus on women who care about height. It's like, dog, these people are literally, they're self-selecting for you. Why would you want to be with someone that vapid anyways? They're already removing themselves. This awful group is removing themselves from your dating pool. Like, it's very immature to, like, hyper-focus on that or care about those people because those people weren't worth being with in the first place. Anywho. Okay. That was what I wanted to say. That's my piece. Stating my piece. I think it's a very cold take, but some people think it's a very hot take.
To marry these women or to have long-term relationships, what I am saying is a direct contributor to their unhappiness because women are giving up their goods for free and women are now entering the workplace and that does not actually make them happy.
Okay, pause. Sorry, you've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Hello.
Hi there.
How are you? I'm Candace.
Nice to meet you.
Wait, so not all women like tall men? I'm confused. I will be nice because I don't want this to be your first experience asking this question and have it be negative. The answer is no. The answer is absolutely not. Besides the fact that obviously women are not a monolith, bravely stands up. I like men that are about my height. Because don't get me wrong, as much as I would appreciate, or as much as I do appreciate, tall people that can reach high shelves, I'm thinking practically here, okay? And practically, it's much better to have someone around your height because you get to share a lot of things. Besides the fact that you get to share like clothes when you're about the same size and shape as somebody, which, you know, women love stealing. This is true. It's also better on all these other practical ways, like fitting in a car, right? Like sharing I've had friends that are like, they're like 5 foot and they're dating someone that's like 6'7". Guess what? Every time they're in their partner's car, wait, I got to bring the chair all the way up. It's like, dude, that's not. And it's like that for everything. Everything. Okay? So I'm boldly, bravely, I don't care about height. Bravely speaking, I don't care. If anything, it is a detriment for me to date someone that's too tall. Because, first of all, the neck pain, the constant, like, hey, what do you want to get for dinner? Like, oh my, I don't know how short women do that. I don't know how they deal with it. I can't imagine. Every time you talk to someone, you have to fucking look up. Are you kidding me? But also get to steal their clothes. All right. Everything is about the same shape as, like, if it fits you, it'll fit them comfortably. Like chairs, beds, showers. You don't have to readjust the shower head. You don't have to readjust the seat in the car. Like, there are so many fucking pros to dating someone around your height. All right. Come on, moving car seats and looking up. Yes. Yes. What about it? What man is stealing his girlfriend's clothes? I don't know. I don't judge them. I'm stealing the clothes. That's what I said. I said women love stealing. I don't. He wants to steal my clothes. He can steal my clothes. I don't care. I just want to make sure I can steal his clothes. What the hell? Come on, be real.
As 6 feet 1 inch woman, there's nothing more powerful than staring down at a man.
Oh my God, yes. No, where I really like height, tall women. It does something to me, man. Something. Height on men, I don't care about at all. It doesn't matter at all. I don't give a shit. It's so irrelevant. It is so completely irrelevant. What matters is like whether or not you're an insecure loser and a little baby about it all the time. Like, I will never, and I mean never, ever, ever, ever date a man that tells me not to wear heels. Ever. Because they don't want to be shorter than me in public. No. No. That's my hard line. You could be fucking 5'2", I don't care. But you're not telling me that I can't wear heels. Hell no, dude. They match my outfit perfectly. Fuck you. I don't give a shit. You wear heels if you don't like me wearing heels. Okay? I'm not going to stop you, but you're not going to stop me. Which I think is a very reasonable thing. Okay? I think that's a very reasonable request. All right, moving back to the video.
Julian, my pronouns are they, them. It's very interesting to think of it when we just think about the gender binary. It's, how do we place value on human beings in general? And so when we think about, placing value, that comes from a place of power, right? So I think let's select like the Victorian era. You have this dominant group of people coming from white supremacy, deciding who gets to have a proper status in the world. And so that is already like taking human beings and devaluing them. And so what the sexual revolution did was to help people seek out empowerment, which increased value, no matter the gender. So when it comes to sexual revolution, let's look at one contribution is sex education. I'm actually an educator. I teach sociology and LGBTQ studies. And I have absolutely seen the positive outcome with the sexual revolution and sex education and seen people empower themselves. And with that comes safety when it comes to decreasing STIs, abuse, sexual assault. Again, people get to empower themselves of all genders. And I know earlier you mentioned about violence amongst lesbians and sapphic community, which I do identify within. All genders can be subjected to violence.
That was the point I was making. So I wasn't sure of how her claim was relating to what we were talking about, whether or not it makes people happy or unhappy. Relationships are obviously a ground where there can be violence.
I guess I could just wrap it up by saying, like, if we all have access to like sex education through the incredible work of feminists through the sexual revolution, we are able to gain access to information and gain skills to create an equitable society, egalitarian within our relationships, whether it be platonic or romantic.
And this is like the point that I was making, which is, first of all, having better knowledge of these things and being better informed of sex and consent only makes conditions better for the people involved in those conditions, right? This is why I'm very pro sex ed in schools. Like, the reality is 15, 16, 17-year-olds are going to have sex. They are. Not me. I was a loser. I was just fucking watching anime. But other kids are going to, right? And there's not really anything you can do to stop them from having sex. Like, it's just not feasible. They're going to. The least you can do is provide them condoms, Provide them sex ed and say, hey, STDs are real, pregnancy is real. The only way to know that, or like the only way to be certain that you can't catch these things or these things is by using protection. Also, if you are ever participating, please know you can revoke consent at any time. Please do not feel like you have to be pressured to have sex. Even if the person is saying, well, we can use protection, blah, blah, blah. If you don't want to, you don't have to. Teaching people consent it's only good. And guess what? You end up with less instances of teen pregnancy. You end up with less instances of teens getting STDs. You end up with higher rates of kids getting the HPV vaccine. And you end up with more instances of kids coming out about sexual abuse, which is good. All of those things are benefits to society. But like doing all this fear mongering and this shame doesn't actually stop the events from happening. It just makes people feel scared to come out and talk about them. Right? And so 15, 16, 17, yeah, how far down will it start? At what age should they start getting sex ed? I mean, I don't know. I think what I got was pretty good. When I was like 17, I think we got like comprehensive sex ed, which had like diagrams. And is it crazy to say that like in a school, kids should be able to look at drawings of sexual organs and be able to be like, oh, and this is how sex works, and this is how conception works, and this is how STDs are spread. I don't think that that's too scary for a 17-year-old. Personally, that's just like really basic biology. And then when I was in 5th grade, I think, or maybe it was 6th grade, we had like a very, very, very bare bones sex ed, which was just like, here is a cucumber. This is a condom. Never have sex ever without this. If someone is trying to coerce you, you can say no. Know that you can always say no. If you feel like someone has been inappropriate to you, anyone, boy or girl, the teachers are always here to listen. Always. Don't feel embarrassed or ashamed. Please, please come talk to one of us. We will help you. And that was it, which didn't feel inappropriate to me either as a kid. And I don't think that a kid finding out what a condom is or seeing a cucumber, I don't think that that's traumatic. But someone who, I don't know, someone with maybe medical research on this can feel free to show me. From my understanding, that's pretty standard education. And then teaching kids consent, that seems like pretty standard education as well. So I don't see what's wrong with that. I think that that's fine. I think that that's good. Also, shouldn't kids be taught about puberty before they have to go through it? Yeah. Well, I learned about puberty in one of my science classes in middle school. Man, what a weird time. But what was I going to say? I forgot. I was going to talk about one other thing, but I don't remember. I'll get back to the video.
I'm so grateful for those feminists who have fought for us so we can gain those spaces. And
oh yeah, people having better knowledge of these things helps them improve their situations. If you know, because society has shown you that slut shaming is bad and that it's okay to have sex and it's okay to talk about sex and it's not this scary, dirty word or whatever, you're just way more likely to like leave sexually abusive partners, which is good. People shouldn't be staying in sexually abusive relationships. And that's like one positive. Also, like in general, everybody devaluing sex is, in my opinion, good. The fact that we treat it like this scary thing, this like holy thing, is bad. And it's only bad for women as well. Like the slut shaming that exists and like the no sex before marriage thing that exists, as it does, pretty much exclusively shames women. So like, how about nobody cares about this? Because it's stupid to care about? As an idea?
create a healthier society.
Okay, are you a believer in the government doing everything that it can to make people happy?
So when it comes, as someone that teaches in the public sector, I understand the concern when it comes to like, what is a teacher, what kind of information they're providing to the students. I do believe that we, as a teacher, I should be able to give that sort of information. Again, I teach college students. One of my claims is I believe that we should mandate sex education amongst college students. So yes, I do want the state, I would like the government to give us those resources so we can implement that curriculum.
Okay, are you consider yourself a feminist, I'm assuming?
Queer feminist. There's variations, right?
What is a queer feminist as opposed to a feminist, just so I understand?
Well, so I heavily believe in queer theory. So, the gender binary that we understand, it comes from colonization. So someone who is mixed race, family from Mexico, we have the Muxés in Mexico, which is an indigenous tribe. They believed in gender fluidity. And then you have European colonizers coming who dismantle that. And now everything that we understand when it comes to gender is a Western lens. So from a queer...
So you don't even think women exist, I'm guessing.
I think everyone should be empowered to figure out their identity and explore the language that best describes themselves. So freedom, America, right? America, freedom. And I want to believe in that when it comes to identity. Right. Everyone should have the freedom to decide how they want to identify, as long as they're not causing harm. But that's where we get into the debate, what is harm?
So just, again, to be clear, to go back to this claim, we are debating female happiness. Mm-hmm. You are saying you do not identify as a female.
I identify with all gender expressions, so from masculinity to femininity. So
I'm just saying, are you just saying that as a part of queer theory, you're debating whether or not women are happier after the sexual revolution? I'm just trying to understand, because it seems like you're debating queer theory as opposed to female.
I believe all genders benefit from the sexual revolution.
You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
The point that they were making is that when you're looking at straight relationships and you're looking at whether or not certain things benefit women or men in their relationships, it helps to divorce yourself from exclusively heteronormative relationships and take a look at non-heteronormative relationships. Because when you're in this constrained box, you're sitting there thinking about the rules that you're allowed to break within that box and the rules that you're not allowed to break within that box. When someone shows you that the box is arbitrary and instead here are all these ways that people express themselves and all these different types of attractions and how these relationships could look, you don't have to think in the confines of heteronormative relationships. One example is like, if all you know is, well, women should be the homemakers and men should be the providers, and women are happier in these positions and men are always happier in these positions. And then you take a look at two lesbians that work and are both very happy. It's like, wait, have I been thinking about this in a heteronormative way? Oh. Wait, this isn't, here are two, we'll use for the purpose of like simplification, two cis women that are very happy that don't have to follow this constraint. Is this constraint that I believe to be there nonsense and completely irrelevant? Oh, okay. And it helps you restart from a new position, from a fresh position, instead of working within the confines. It's sort of like the people who are like, we need to fix the Democratic Party. It's like, wait, no, we should just fucking push for like socialist parties. The Democratic Party is like fucked. There's nothing there. Why are we insisting on working within the constraints of this system when we can just not? When we can just imagine a better world that isn't within the confines of this fucking system. And it's the same thing that this person is saying here. But it is really funny that so far Candace Owens hasn't really said anything.
Hello.
I'm Zena.
Zena, very much like your name.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
Can we start with the beginning? Do you identify as a female?
I identify as a woman, yeah.
Okay.
Right. So I do want to get back to your premise. You're saying that women have been devalued.
You identify as a female.
Right, by the sexual revolution. This kind of presumes two things. One, that there has been a loss of worth, right, for women. So you're saying that women have, as human beings, lost worth. Women who, prior to their sexual revolution, were worth more than women today.
I would say that, yes, women have devalued themselves by becoming overtly
According
sexual. That's my claim. So, I mean, also according to and let's not remove this from the other part of the claim, which that as it has made
I think
women
she's been on one of these before. Yeah, the last time Zena was on, she was eating.
infinitely less happy.
Also, I thought they could always tell. Well, yes, but she's making a nod to like mental illness or whatever the fuck.
So are you saying, but you're saying that according to you, women have been devalued?
Not according to me. According to the time in which people are getting married, how difficult it is for people to find a partner that's willing to commit to them. And I think that's in large part due to the fact that women are offering sex for free because it was a major component of the sexual revolution was this idea.
So a woman's worth is tied to her sexuality.
It's not tied to, well, absolutely. If you're going to be having multiple partners,
yes,
you are going to be devalued.
Force her and make her bite that fucking terrible bullet, dude. Because oh man, it's biting the bullet of like, yeah, actually women are tied to their ability to have sex. Oh, fuck, dude. You don't want to bite that bullet. And she has to because she's being forced into the position.
You're worth less as a human being.
Not as a human being, just, in terms of trying to have a partnership and a productive relationship. Certainly men are not going to be clamoring to have a relationship with somebody when there's the market is throwing them.
A man's response to your actions is what defines your worth, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. I would say that I would...
Sorry. But she's eating.
Argue...
The premise is inherently misogynistic. Yes.
That what makes women actually happy is family.
Dude, sorry, I paused so many times. I didn't get a chance to show you all her total non-response.
Your actions is what defines your worth, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. I would say that I would argue that what makes women actually happy is family. So if you're interrupting, so I'm just to connect the dots for you, when women are having sex with multiple partners, it devalues them for men, right?
For men. So,
yes. So
men define a woman's worth.
Well, I would say both of them kind of define one another's worth because I think the ultimate goal for people to be happy is actually family.
Okay, so you're saying in all cases, a woman is going to be more fulfilled in regards to family.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
And this is going to work in all cases. You're saying there's no individual case in which a woman can feel, fulfilled without being tied to other people in the case of family.
I think there could be an exceptional case for everything. I think there are exceptional cases.
Also, it's like a misandrous position as well to assume that every man is like this weird virgin-obsessed freak that only wants to date a woman who's never had any sex ever in her life. It's very misandrous to assume that, dude.
But I think that if we all start trying to be the exception,
to assume that like men need this sexual control over their partner so that they can feel happiness, like is bizarro land.
Opposed to recognizing the rule, which is that people in life are...
There's conflicting research on this topic. Pew Research found that a higher percentage of adults want a career or close friends to be fulfilled where compared to kids or marriage, while the Institute of Family Studies found married men and women are happier than their unmarried counterparts, largely because they have a family support system. Okay, so the point here, though, is that, like, yeah, obviously being in a relationship with someone that you love and care about, that loves and cares about you, will make you happier. That's a very different position to have from, like, having a family, which would entail having kids, will make you happier. Humans are social creatures, almost consistently across the board. Unless you are a maladjusted human being or like you're a sociopath, having another person in your life that you love and care about and trust, that loves and cares about you and trusts you, and you like spending time together, will make you happier. Kids are not necessarily a guarantee to make you happier. And in a lot of instances, the studies that show that adults without kids are happier than adults with kids because kids are very stressful.
Are more fulfilled when they achieve a family unit and when they have children, women in particular, especially aspiring to children, then you are going to end up with a bunch of people who are unhappy because your job cannot replace the feeling of having a family.
So what you're saying is we need to look at every individual case and see what is going to fulfill you or what is going to, I guess, essentially predict your happiness more. Because if we look at, for example, the Nordic countries, right? These are countries, I'm talking about like Sweden, Denmark, right? These countries tend to be like, I think in the past 14 years, they've been ranked as the highest in happiness and marital satisfaction from women, right? And we see that they also have been the most open in regards to, like, you know, sexual.
It is true that Finland, Denmark, Iceland, Sweden, and Norway consistently rank the highest in the World Happiness Report. In fact, in 2025, they were 1, 4, and 7. 1 through 4 and 7.
Norms and you know, sexual roles, right? So, and we also see that there's less rates of like STDs reported. We see more, and that's also due to comprehensive sex education that's pushed in those countries. So we see that and that's like a direct result of the sexual revolution, right? So when we're seeing that direct reports of happiness, right, we don't have these same rates in America. In these countries that are more sexually open, why would we see like those rates in those type of countries?
So I think you might be referring to this sort of mass-produced study that was a part of like a behavioral science study, which said that women were the happiest women in the world were women that were actually unmarried and had careers. No, okay, well, there was
reported happiness.
Okay, sure. I'm talking about the same thing. It was reported happiness, but it could be there's tons of studies. The point being is that in 2023, there was this massive scandal where they recognize that a lot of these studies that were being produced, behavioral science, was proven to be a complete fraud. And they were unable to reproduce these studies, and they also found that the data had been faked. The data that we can look at that I think shows, and you can let me know if you agree with this, if women, and under the imagination of the feminist umbrella, were really unhappy when they were in the home, and then entering the workforce has made women happier and infinitely feeling more secure about themselves, we could, I think, reasonably expect that there would have been a decrease in suicide rates amongst women.
You would have to go ahead and show how that correlation, right, is going to be a direct cause of women going into the workforce.
Yes.
Okay, well, how can we, let's measure, then you have to give me a way that we can measure happiness. How can we measure happiness? So I would say suicide rates would be a good thing to look at. Drug, alcohol consumption would be a good thing to look at.
Of course, right? But we would have to, I can say at this point in society, I don't think everyone is happy. I think there's a lot of things that we need to reconcile in society.
That's what I'm getting at.
Right,
So
but we have to look at the cause, right? Why are these things predicted, right? And for example, if we talk about men, there are a lot of things we can look at, right? That you know tend to predetermine suicide, right? But we can't say, oh, these two things are happening at the same time. This caused this other thing.
Yes, that's right. But I do think that we can objectively say that women who are committing suicide rates more than they were in the 1950s, like it has actually increased marginally.
No, not the fact check. The suicide rate among women is statistically unchanged since the 1950s. 5.6 per 100,000 compared to 5.9. No, dude, you know how bad your point has to be for the fucking Jubilee to side with the leftist?
That's not a sign that us entering the workforce suddenly made us
How
all
is
very
it
happy.
a cause of the workforce?
We're also binge drinking at a higher rate.
How's this
We're
cause
taking
of
opioids
entering
at a
the
higher rate?
How is this a cause of entering
Because
the
I
workforce?
think women are being
think?
put on a pathway aspirationally.
But you're gonna have to. You're saying you think this, right? But where's the cause? Like you're not substantiating the claim. You're saying this is what I think. I'm seeing two.
Okay, pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Thank you so much.
Great job. Great job. Hello. Hi.
Hi, I'm Nikki.
Nice to meet you.
Dude, I can't believe. She was eating. I don't know why they voted her out, dude. This fucking show, dude. This fucking show blows. Boo.
When we're talking about the value of women on a societal scale and how we view each other, right? When you're devaluing us, you're objectifying us. And follow me, I promise. But rape rates have gone down by about half in the last 20 years, right? So if you're...
Rates over the last 20 years are difficult to track because the FBI changed the definition in 2013, which led to a significant increase in cases. Well, yeah, also there's higher rates of reporting now than there ever was, than there ever has been, right? Because there's more comfort with things like the sexual revolution. But
you're saying we're less valuable now, why wouldn't we be suffering at a higher rate?
So is the argument that you're making, just so I understand, that because women are giving up sex for free, they're not being raped?
Every study shows rape is not correlated with just sexual gratification. It is a power structure.
Okay.
So it is about objectifying and abusing women when you rape them, not about whether or not you want sex. What I am saying is that women are less objectified, so therefore we are being raped less.
Okay, so you think that in today's...
she's not frying everything, unfortunately. This is We're a little off topic. We're a little
society, because this is pretty wild for me. In the 1950s, you're saying women were more objectified than today in the land of.
I would definitely say that women are more objectified today. So this doesn't. I like the premise is wrong. I disagree with the conclusion. I disagree with. Can we skip this one? I don't want to see this one. This one was. I don't know.
Single income households, and we got to stay home. We also had a pill popping problem. We also were viewed as maids. Like, we were seen as a house appliance far more than we were as people. And so when you have that kind of objectification where you are in a subservient position, I think we're facing a different form today. But I think that rape is a signifier of a contradiction to your statement.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It doesn't make sense, but I do want to rebut it on a couple of points. So first, I just want to say, suggesting that objectification has gone downward since the 1950s is wild. That's just a firm no. That is not the truth, and you know that's not true.
Wait, so do you feel
but hold on, let me answer your second thing.
Okay.
Second thing, you then brought up, okay, women were at home, but they were pill popping. Well, you then have to acknowledge we're actually popping more pills now, right? So we have actually increased our amount of pill popping. Women are having overdoses.
What is decreased? Lobotomy rates, dude.
On opioids. And on top of that, since I think 1999, by rate, we are increasing our opioid use compared to men. So women are not popping pills less because we're going into the workforce. That's actually not true at all either. We're also, like I said to you, consuming alcohol more and binge drinking more than we did in the 1950s, which is why I was trying to get her to say, we need to look at actually give me any reasonable metric of how we can define happiness. Because it's hard, right? Are you happy, yes or no?
Sure, but wait, hold on. We're actually avoiding what my original point was about rape being the signifier.
Okay, pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
That one was not. I can't believe they kicked her out to put that in. That was not good. That was not good. That was not good. Your ability to run faster contributes to their ability to debate. I mean, from my understanding, the running thing is just fake. That's not real. They just do that for like the clicks and the views and whatever.
Hi.
Hi.
I like your hat.
Whitney Shanahan.
Nice to meet you.
I am fascinated by your claim that women have lost happiness since the sexual revolution, since the 1950s. Do you think that there is any tie to happiness and freedom and happiness and choice? Because since 1950s, since the sexual revolution, women have gotten exponentially more freedom and more choice. And for me, as a mother and as a woman, having the freedom to choose what I do, to make my own destiny, makes me infinitely more happy than, say, back before the sexual revolution, when I couldn't get a bank account, couldn't get a home loan, couldn't work outside the home, couldn't travel around without a man, couldn't control my own reproduction. So I feel that happiness, personally, my belief, is tied to our ability to have freedom. And I think that in the United States, protecting freedom and our individual freedoms is what's going to lead us to happiness.
Did you go to college?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Did you?
Yes, I did. So you have a degree?
Absolutely.
Now, when you went to college, did you go to college because it was simply something that you wanted to do? Or did you think that I have to go to college because in order to get a job, I have to have a college degree?
I went to college for art because I was fascinated with art.
Okay.
Like, just look at the woman you're talking to. Look at what she's wearing. This woman went because she wanted to learn about the world, okay?
It's just answering my question. Did you go to college? Was that the only reason you went to college? Or did you think that I might want to do something in art, so I have to go to college, like, for my career?
I went to school because I wanted to expand my horizons. I mean, I think that's why most people go to university.
No,
why did you go?
That's actually not true. I went, and I think a lot of people go because there's a pressure that if you don't go to college, you're going to be a failure.
It's a choice. Everything's a choice. So taking away choice.
Oh, dude. Unfortunately, Candace has run into like the one exception to this rule. I would agree that most people go to college because they feel like it is the correct decision as an adult, especially if you do well in like high school. There's no reason not to attempt to pursue higher education. But unfortunately, there are a lot of people who are either love the arts, whether that's literature, music, fine art, whatever, or people who just like love learning. Like I went as much for the experience of learning because I love learning, as I did because it's the correct thing to do as like an adult that's trying to get like a good paying job.
This doesn't make people happier.
Yeah,
Taking
but
away
I'm
freedoms
actually
doesn't make people happier.
I'm disagreeing with you on the idea that people are feeling more free by financial pressure. I think financial pressure makes people feel remarkably less free.
What about the financial pressure of being married to someone who makes all of your financial decisions for you, whether those are good or bad, and you have no control over that? And oh, surprise, honey, our house is getting mortgaged because I showed up to work drunk 7 days a week. Which these guys clocking in 7 days a week. Sorry, too many days. 5 days a week, every single day for like months. Like having less financial control is only a positive if the person who has the financial control is good to you, right? That's it. 7 days a week. No wonder he's drunk at work. Honey, I gambled the house away. Yeah. Should have picked a better man? Question mark. You are evidence that there are not enough good men out there in the world.
No bank accounts again, women not to have credit cards?
I'm
No
not
bank
saying that
accounts?
women shouldn't have access to credit cards or banking accounts. You're putting words in my mouth, so why don't you respond to the words that I'm saying?
Well, less financial pressure. If I don't have a bank account, that's a lot less financial pressure, I guess, right?
Financial pressure in terms of most people that go to college, and I'm counting myself among them, it's because typically in order to get the job that you're being sold is going to make you infinitely happier and infinitely more free, it just requires a college degree. And most of these people, to be clear, have to put themselves, the majority of people have to put themselves into debt. And I don't think anybody would describe debt as a form of freedom, right? I don't think anybody would realistically say...
Let's get back to happiness. So we're here to talk about...
The problem is you can't build policies or worldviews or societies around best case scenarios. It doesn't work. It's not effective. Let's say her premise is true, that women are the most happy when they have no work pressure and no aspirations and just sit at home and home make. That is when women are most happy. Let's just take her word for it. I mean, I disagree with the premise inherently. I think it's nonsensical. And I think there are just as many men who appreciate homemaking as there are women. Or if we didn't live in a gendered society, there would be an equal amount. And just as there are a lot of people who are personally motivated and like working in whatever field they work in because they like that challenge in whichever way, I think there are an equal number of women as well. But let's just accept her premise for a moment. Let's delve into her world for a second. The universe where there are no bad people that make bad decisions doesn't exist. And it will never exist, ever. The reason we have modern feminism and modern protections for women in the workplace, modern protections for women in terms of financial freedoms and whatever, is because some people are bad. And you can't make all of the people bad. And you can't make all the people good. Unfortunately, some people in the 50s beat their wives and lobotomized them. And guess what? There wasn't an effective way to stop these men from engaging in this behavior because women had no control in the relationship. It was, oh, deal with this or get divorced and then become unmarriable and then have to deal with being a single mom and never seeing my kid and working a stressful job where I'm going to get sexually harassed in the workplace, or just deal with this. You're not you can't stop shitty people from existing. So you have to build your world knowing that the shitty people exist. This would be like saying, oh yeah, well, prisons are really bad. So we should never, ever, ever assume that people would commit murder. Serial killers don't exist in my universe. So we shouldn't spend any money on prisons. It's like, wait. What? I was listening for a second on this whole prison thing. Yeah, I agree. The prison system is bad. It mistreats human beings. The American prison system is not great. Yep. All right. I'm listening. A lot of people that are in there for nonviolent offenses can never really truly rehabilitate themselves because the system doesn't allow for it. Okay. Felonies on your account are on your record are bad. Okay. Wait, what do you mean there's no serial killers? What the fuck are you talking about? Like, you can only have this childish worldview where you think that we should go back to how women used to be homemakers if you think that no shitty men exist and they never will and they never have. It's just it's so obscene. Also, some probably couldn't even divorce if they wanted to. Oh yeah, and this is like no fault divorces, right? Men and women do not equally want to be homemakers because of evolution and biology. Please link me the research paper that shows the evolution and biology, or explain it. Please. I implore you to. Please.
About happiness and how the sexual revolution, and we're not talking about college debt.
I think it's important because we're talking about freedom. You just said that the reason why I feel happy is because I have more freedom. And I am saying that financial restraints and debt doesn't make people feel more free.
So let's eliminate the debt. Let's eliminate college debt. Maybe we should have...
Yes. Maybe we should eliminate college debt. Yes. It sucks that they ran out of time. I really love this whimsical woman, dude. Nature and biology famous for its strict gender binary.
Love it! Champion for the people!
Girl. Very nice.
All right, return to your seat.
Surrounded is now a podcast.
Evolutionarily, men leave their mom's basement to get some sunshine shattered.
Of anyone.
Joy and fulfillment as raising.
All right, this is just the same premise again. No career will give women as much joy and fulfillment as raising children.
Oh, hi, Candace. How are you?
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm John. Okay, so I feel like a lot of your arguments today are very rooted in a sort of old school perspective, I have to be honest. Like, I think, and I'm not trying to be insulting whatsoever, I feel as though most people would identify that claim as pretty extreme and pretty like...
Children are extreme?
Well, no, that women would get more happiness inherently from raising kids than having a job or deciding what they want to do with their lives.
Why is that? I'm just curious. Why would having children, which is just a natural biological conclusion, be something that sounds extreme?
I just said inherently.
Well, inherently.
That's the
extreme.
inherent expectation.
Yeah.
That's better for
It's inherent because it's biological. So I think when we think about things that are inherent, I think biology is a good thing to start with, right? So biologically speaking, men and women come together, they form families, and that's the reason why you're sitting here. That's the reason that I'm sitting.
Wrong. It's just wrong. The idea that like the nuclear family is somehow this ancient ideal is so fundamentally incorrect. It's crazy that anyone falls for it, to be honest. We have a very like, I think most people have a very instinct biological desire to have sex because it feels good, right? And because we crave human connection. This idea that like what's also inherent there for everyone always is raising children is not realistic.
Sitting here is because biology is inherent.
Well,
so
I was
saying
jealous.
it's just natural order that we're speaking about, right?
Okay, let's break it down. So why do you believe that? Why do you believe that?
Why do I believe that women?
Why do you inherently are happier? Yeah.
Okay, you keep stressing this word inherent. So,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I think because it speaks to natural order and every piece.
Natural order. Dude, oh my God. I study evolutionary biology. Menopause exists to extend the lifespan of women past reproductive age. Menopause is like a very interesting topic that a lot of right-wingers just sort of ignore when they want to talk about like the nuclear family, and they want to talk about how like we exist in this way just for these things. It's very reductive because it's the only thing that feeds into their belief system that we should focus exclusively on the family unit, or like the nuclear family.
Piece of life, I think, is enriched by
You
children.
don't think it's natural for women to get to decide what they want to do with their lives?
I do not think that saying women can decide whether or not they want to go to work or have children is problematic. What I'm saying.
But the question is, so you're presupposing that women have to choose, but men never have to choose. When in reality, you can have a system that equally rewards and punishes men and women for engaging in child rearing.
To you is that women will get the most fulfillment from having a family.
Because it's natural.
It's natural, but also children are wonderful and beautiful and spiritually divine creatures. I mean, they're amazing. There's everything.
And like the other problem with this is when you're forcing women to child rear, and you're insisting that it will make them the happiest that they ever will be, what you end up with is a bunch of women who have kids who hate their children. Dude, I'm genuinely, the subreddit, what is it? It's like not child free, not that subreddit. I'm forgetting the name of it, but it's people who talk about the regret that they had having kids. Not antinatalism, it's something else. Regretful parents, here it is. This subreddit, which it's been around for a long time, but it doesn't even matter that it's been around for a long time, because if you've talked to human beings, adults, you will have met lots of parents who hated everything about the experience. Are there people that love children and want to have children and enjoy the experience of raising children? Yeah, of course. Duh. In the same way, there are people who don't want kids. And this is like, these posts are like depressing, dude. Some of these posts are. Let me just read the bio. This is a safe place for parents who think they shouldn't have become parents to rant, confess, and get off their chest about their kids, significant others, family members, whatever. Parents can also suggest ways to get closer to their children, help, advice, and words of wisdom and encouragement. Let me see if I can find like a good example of like one of these posts. And these posts are brutal. Hold up. This person posted 2 days ago. So angry all the time. I'm the father of a 2.5-year-old daughter, and it has been so much work. I'm angry at myself all the time. I was naive to think that a child would or could bring happiness. That could not be further from the truth. And this is only true of this person, to be very clear. I've met lots of people who love their kids. They are so happy that they had kids, and it was the best decision they've ever made. Just like there are people who think the complete opposite. Okay? Just like there are people who love metal, and there are people that hate metal music. Some people love 100 gecs, and other people scream at you when you even consider putting it on the aux. Okay? People are different and want different things, and trying to force people into this narrow fucking lifestyle doesn't fucking work. I hate having to go with the flow all the time. I can never get anything done. Everything's always half completed. I started a new job last week. I'm sitting here writing this with no belt on. I forgot to comb my hair before leaving last night because when I was trying to prepare, I kept getting interrupted by a child who wouldn't sleep. No matter how much work I put forth on the weekends, it's never enough. There's always something I've forgotten that needs my attention right away. I never wake up rested anymore. My wife and I's relationship is the worst it's ever been, and for the life of me, I cannot see this getting any better anytime soon. It's like this idea that you should just force everyone into this lifestyle and that it's the right decision for everyone is what a fucking crazy thing to assume. Like, how insane? Where do these people get off on trying to like dictate how others should do with their lives? I know. Okay, what are the responses like? I definitely felt similar. I'm the mom though in the early years. I often daydreamed of getting in my car and just driving away and never coming back. We only have one kid. Why add to the misery? Oh my God. I can say with my daughter who's 8 years old, it's gotten better over the last couple of years, but I remember when I wanted to drive away like it was yesterday. And similar to you, I stayed because she didn't choose this. I chose to have her. So my responsibility is what kept me going. I'm working really hard now to intently bring more joy into everyday life. I think that's why I'm doing better, but it takes energy and effort. And like, who has that when you're barely surviving them as very tiny humans? Solidarity, wishing you the strength to keep going. It's like, especially if you don't have your material conditions met and you're either struggling with work, struggling financially, or maybe you even just have like a naturally more depressive personality and you take losses just a little bit harder than other people take losses. Or if you deal with stress a little bit worse, having kids isn't necessarily the right decision. And only the people who really, 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 really want to have kids should be the people having kids. Is that so wrong to say that I only think that people who really want kids should be the ones having kids? Also, look, guys, it's wormy. It's wormy. Who's forcing you to have kids? Well, no one's forcing me to have kids because I live in California. But I would say that the people who were for Roe v. Wade being overturned want people to have kids. And more importantly, people like Candace Owens, which is what we're watching right now, saying no career will give women as much joy and fulfillment as raising children, which is a factually untrue statement. Assuming that all women are exactly the same and every single woman would be more fulfilled with children than she would be with a career is the stupidest shit I've ever heard in my fucking life. And I can't believe anyone falls for this nonsense.
About having a child, yes, it's a lot of work. It's just, it's beautiful.
I hear that. Well,
Yeah.
Okay, what if there's a little girl born and it's her dream her entire life to be an author or to be, on TV or any of these things, and having children is very expensive. It takes a lot of time. So how is it better for that, and I understand this is hypothetical, but that hypothetical little girl to have children than to pursue these things that would make her happy as she gets older?
I just think that if she publishes the book and she has a child, she would agree with me that the child was more fulfilling and made her happy. That's what I'm happier than the book did, is what I'm saying. And I say this as a published author of a New York Times. I would choose my children over my best-selling book. And I was that little girl who had a dream.
Well, maybe the people who have enough money to hire childcare and can offshore a lot of the very difficult labor, aka women who have more bargaining power in their relationships, are going to enjoy having children more. Like, who is watching her kids when she goes on tours or when she has very long work weeks? A nanny that she hires. Like, it's so absurd. Wouldn't a dad say his children are more important than his job? Well, yeah, because the job is only important, is only as important as like what you get from your job, aka the ability to pay for things you enjoy, right? You can say that about anything, right? The only thing that, in my opinion, makes people universally more happy, because again, we're social creatures, is having someone in your life that values and loves and cares about you as much as you value and care and love them. That objectively should make everyone happier. Having children is not necessarily a guarantee that you'll be happier or more fulfilled.
Dream that it would be really great if I could share my thoughts and ideas in a book, but it is utter insanity for me to reflect on that and say that I would have rather published Blackout than to have my 3 children.
But why is it rather? You see what I'm saying?
It's not rather. I'm just saying
Well, that's
that
your claim. That's your claim, is that it's better.
It will be more fulfilled.
Right.
Yes.
So rather.
Well, if it's an either or, if you're saying it's an either or, I'm just saying that if these two things have happened in your life, the thing that will bring you more spiritual fulfillment will be children. And so women who are neglected.
So what you're telling people is that women who would have to choose to prioritize one or the other should prioritize having children, which is not a good decision for a lot of people. A lot of people don't necessarily think that having children would make them more happy.
Who are neglecting the pathway to, strive toward family because they think their career is going to hug them at night, or they think that when they're on their deathbed, their career is going to come up next to them and say, you were so great to me. I think that they've stepped into a delusion, and I'm hopeful that they wake up from it before it's too late.
All right, pause. Sorry, you've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
I like how every Jubilee video is bad. Every single one. Nothing will ever come as close as like the Sam Cedar one. That one was so good. What about Friends? Yeah. She's just devaluing women who don't have kids. Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's also like, this is the problem with conservative ideology in general. It's divorced from like people. And it's divorced from like the diversity of people. They insist that everyone would be happy if they followed their model of life, and then insist that they aren't authoritarian fascists. It's like, hey, how about this? We let people make the decisions they want to. If there's a biological imperative that's so strong and powerful to show people that they would want to have kids, like we are biologically hardwired to want kids, why do you need to convince people to have kids? They should do an episode with you and 40 Tomatoes. Stop. Guys, look at Wormy. Look at her. This is a rare Wormy sighting. Usually it's just Meerkat that comes and harasses me during stream. But she's here. She's here. Wormy. I'm going to eat you, Wormy. I'm going to eat you in one bite.